This video provides a demonstration of the loading platen attachment process required for large specimen AMPT cyclic fatigue testing. Loading platens are often referred to as end plates. When using plastic steel epoxy, the following safety precautions are recommended: safety glasses, gloves, lab coat. Additionally, the plastic steel epoxy produces harmful vapors. Work with the epoxy in a well-ventilated area. The following equipment, materials, and supplies are required to attach loading platens to a large specimen: cord and cut 100 mm diameter and 130 mm tall test specimen with gauge points attached, tension platen fixing jig, 200 mm diameter loading platens, small spatula, slow setting epoxy, DevCon 10110, 10120, or 10130 are recommended, mixing surface for epoxy, such as cardboard, metal, glass, plastic, approximately 3 inches by 3 inches, balance with 0.1 gram resolution, paper towel or scrap cloth. Inspect the gluing jig to make sure that it is clean and working properly. Ensure that no dust or particles are in the recessed areas where the loading platens will sit. Check the backs of the loading platens for dirt, debris, and damage which would prevent the loading platen from sitting flat in the gluing jig. Remove any debris. If the debris cannot be removed or the plate is damaged, consider removing from service. Place the loading platens and specimen in the gluing jig. Inspect the position of the specimen. If the specimen is off-center, loosen the bolts and adjust the position of the notched arm such that the specimen is centered in the gluing jig. Then remove the loading platens and specimen from the jig. The epoxy used in this video is DevCon 10120. If you are using a different epoxy, follow the manufacturer's mixing and curing instructions. Place the mixing surface on the balance. Tare the balance. Measure out approximately 90 grams of the black epoxy resin on one side of the mixing surface. Then wipe the spatula on a clean paper towel or rag. Tare the balance and measure out approximately 10 grams of white epoxy hardener on the other side of the mixing surface. Mix the two parts of the epoxy together with the mixing tool until a uniform streak-free gray color is achieved. Scrape epoxy into the grooves of the loading platen with the sharp edge of the spatula. Then place 1/3 of the epoxy on the center of the loading platen and spread outward, creating a gentle taper to prevent large voids from forming in the epoxy. Place the loading platen in the gluing jig. Repeat for the other loading platen. Scrape the remaining epoxy into the voids at each end of the specimen. Place the specimen in the gluing jig, align with the notched arm, and set onto the bottom plate. Bring down the top plate and the bumper arm to secure. Ensure glue is squeezing out from all seams. Then, wipe or scrape away the excess. If glue is not squeezing out in a certain area, a void may exist in the glue and cause failure in the fatigue testing. Allow the epoxy to reach the initial set before removing the specimen from the gluing jig. For this epoxy, the initial set will take approximately 4 hours. This epoxy will be completely set within 24 hours. After the epoxy has set, remove the specimen from the jig, taking care to lift by the bottom platen.